Okay, the next tool we're going to look at is known as the file. After you've cut the actual work using a coping saw, the edges here on your piece of acrylic are going to be quite rough. Therefore, you're going to need to use a file to be able to smooth the edges. I'm going to show you two different ways of filing before then looking at how to smooth it down with the wet and dry and the sandpaper. The first method of filing is known as cross filing. This is where you're going to put one hand on the side of the file and the other hand on the handle. Once again, you need to have one foot in front of the other so you can get more leverage with your elbows. Put the file onto the piece of work. Once again, notice that the piece of acrylic is low down in the vise. If you put it up too far up, it will snap and it will break. So put the file on the piece of work, one hand on the end, one hand on the handle, and you're going to have an up and down motion. Once you have done that, you then can move on to doing cross filing. This is very, very similar, but you stand from the side of the bench, and it doesn't matter which side that you stand on. Once again, you have the hand on the edge of the file and on the handle. This time you're going to move in an up and down movement, sliding across the surface of the acrylic. The cross filing that we did earlier actually removes more of the material, so you may find that you'll be doing more cross filing than draw filing when you smooth the surface of your work. In terms of using the sandpaper and the wet and dry paper, you always use the sandpaper first. This is because it's a lot more abrasive. It's a lot more sharper when you run your fingers over it. It will remove a lot more of the material. After you've used the sandpaper, you will then use the wet and dry paper. Now, usually we can use it wet and dry, but we're only going to use it dry in this instance. Okay, this is a lot finer and it helps to really smooth the surface of the piece of acrylic to really make it shiny and smooth. So first we're going to use the piece of sandpaper. Please fold it in half and you hold it both ends and you're going to rub it onto the part where you need to be sanded. Please don't fold it over like that because you will be smoothing down the actual surfaces, the front and the back of your acrylic, and you don't want to do that. You don't want these sides to be scratched. So just fold the piece of sandpaper in half, hold it flat up against the edge you want to sand, and push downwards. With your finger, you can rub away any excess bits, or you can use a sweeping brush. Please do not blow it, otherwise it will get in your eyes. Continue using the sandpaper. After you've used that, you can then use the wet and dry paper and use it in exactly the same way as the sandpaper. You will notice that the piece of acrylic will start to become a little bit smoother and shinier on the surface when you use the wet and dry paper. If I take it out the vise, you should be able to see exactly what it looks like. This part is the part that I've sanded, and here hasn't been sanded. If you continue that all the way round, you will get a fantastically smooth piece of work.